This meeting is being recorded.
The webinar has started and attendees started coming through.
Perfect, thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name's Alex Yagoub. We're just going to wait for a few minutes for everyone to just trickle through, and we'll get the webinar started imminently. Hi, everyone, just in case you've just joined, we're just waiting a couple more minutes for some later attendees to join, and we'll get started. Paulina, how are we looking?
Yes, go ahead, you can start.
Perfect. Okay. Welcome to the webinar. So my name's Alex, as I've already mentioned, Alex Yagoub. I'm the Strategic Partnership Manager here at Sage, working on Sage Campus. Today, what we're going to be doing is having a look at our Critical Thinking online course. It's brand new, revamped and updated. And with me today on the call, I've got Rachel Crookes, who is the head of Sage Campus as a whole. And I've also got Amy King, who is our instructional designer. And then you've got me just on the side there as well. So what we're going to be doing today is kind of having a bit of an overview, an introduction to what Sage Campus is, first and foremost, for the first few slides. Towards the middle, I'm going to hand over to Rachel, who's going to give a bit of a demonstration of, you know, what kind of goes into these courses. And then we're going to go to Amy, who's going to talk a bit more about the Critical Thinking online course and the instructional design that kind of goes behind that as well. So what is Sage Campus? So as you can see here, Sage Campus is a resource that supports the teaching and learning, the career-ready skills, and the latest research methods. There's over 280 hours of structured online learning. That's over 34 courses. We've got flexible learning pathways covering tricky areas that students kind of struggle with throughout their time at university, and that can really help them throughout their time in university all the way into employment, publishing, specifically in areas such as navigating information, data literacy, research skills, data science skills, and finally, getting published. It makes it really simple. What we're trying to do is simplify the process in learning quite complicated and complex skills, but also make it really engaging for students. We've got quite a number of unique different methods that we use, and one of which is our content pathway. So what we've tried to do with the platform is make sure that the students from day one in university up until their final days of being a student, so to speak, they have content covered there. So as soon as they start actually looking into navigating information, getting started with data and understanding how to use it and what it looks like, planning research, collecting that data, analyzing it, reporting your findings, and then finally getting published. So we try to have everything for everyone from all paths or all times at university. These are the kind of courses that we do have. Because we're focusing on critical thinking online course today, we are going to send the slides, we are going to send the recording, so you will see this in a little bit more detail, but I'm not going to spend too much time on the other courses today. But these are all the different kind of courses that we have in these areas that relate to that kind of student journey. So our unique learning style. So what makes campus quite unique to other platforms is that while you will see on all of our courses, you know, this takes 2 hours to complete, this takes 20 hours to complete, however long it says, it's fully self-paced. Students and researchers can really focus on the sections of each of the modules of each of the courses that they actually want to focus on and really take away what they want from it. It's completely self-paced. There is no deadlines. There's no time limits. There's practical skills. So there is a lot of practical elements to our research based and all of our courses actually, just to kind of engage with students in a variety of different ways. And that kind of leads nicely into the interactive activities tile there as well. What we're always trying to do is keep learners engaged. We've broken everything down into click and reveal tabs. It's not just a case of you click on a section and there's pages and pages of words. There is a lot of activities there to kind of keep the students engaged. Skipping a little bit, going into the mixed content tab as well. So that's kind of a little bit more about what we do. There's a variety of different content across all of the different modules that we do have as well. It's instructor-led. All of our courses are instructor-led. That means we have a subject matter expert discussing their specific expertise, and that's why we've chosen them to author our courses. And then with such as every other course, there's knowledge checks all the way throughout, formative assessment, securing learning outcomes, and you've got that trusted Sage quality as well. There's different profiles on the platform itself. So you can log in as a learner. So that's someone going in to take a course to actively engage with the material and learn from it. Faculty have their own different kind of profile as well. So you can kind of log in, create a course for your students, create a cohort for your students, and then assign them different courses. And that's really easy to share across and enroll students into using a unique link for your own cohort. And then librarians can access the macro view. So they have an overview of everything that's going on the platform and how it's being used and engaged with. At any point, you can switch yourself as well. So depending on what kind of privileges or permissions you have, a librarian can switch themselves into a faculty or a course assigner. And a course assigner can then switch themselves into a learner as well. That's kind of based on the feedback that we've had that some librarians are new librarians and want to publish and want to take part in some of the publishing courses that we do have, but also some of the faculties as well. You've got postgrad or PhDs that are doing some teaching as well, but they could benefit from taking the courses. So you could always be a learner on the platform despite the permissions you have on there as well. So how are our current subscribers and universities using Sage Campus? So we're starting to notice a switch from SPSS to R and Python. So that's something that we're working with on campus, trying to support institutions that way. Improving employability, you can set as prerequisite courses. So before they join a module or in the middle of joining a module, just to kind of get their skill set up to a level that you're requiring from them. It can supplement teaching, promote autonomous learning. Expanding that face-to-face training. And again, you're making a lot more of an interactive experience there for students as well. Yep, so you're supplementing it in-person skills workshops, as well as supporting the researchers that you have. The next few sections is going to be really briefly touching on some of the courses that we do have. So navigating information and data literacy courses. Again, I'm not going to spend too much time here because we are specifically talking about the top left one there, critical thinking, an online course. But we will be sending these slides for you later. We've got research skills courses there as well. And then this is kind of a bigger section. So we do have more in that area. And then last but not least, sorry, not last but not least, we moved into the data science courses, data science skills. And then last but not least, we move into how to get published as well. Sage Campus is available for trial. So whether you're a lecturer, you can have a trial, access some of our free modules on campus.sagepub.com/demohub. Or if you're a librarian and you want to request a library for your entire institution, or if you're a lecturer and you want to request a trial for your entire institution, just get in touch with us. Our emails are at the very front of this presentation, or you can just simply go to campus.sagepub.com/free trial. I am going to hand over to Rachel now, I believe.
Thanks, Alex. Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Crookes. I'm the head of Sage Campus, and I'm going to be talking to you today in a bit more detail about the critical thinking course. We are really big fans of this course, and so are our learners. It's consistently our most popular course, our most used course, so we're really excited that you're interested to hear about it. I'll talk you through what the course covers, some of the highlight topics that we have. I'll talk about what's new in the latest version. And then I've got some thoughts around how it can be used with students. We're going to ask you to give us your ideas around how you're teaching critical thinking now. And I've got a sneak preview of a research paper that is hopefully going to be published, which is a piece of research where a faculty member used critical thinking course and studied the impact and effect on the learning outcomes for the students. So that's a little preview for you coming up. And then I'll be handing over to Amy King, our instructional designer, who'll talk about how we design our courses and show you some of the highlights and activity examples from this course particularly. So this course, we first launched it in 2018, can you believe it? And we have just relaunched it in an updated version. The author is Tom Chatfield. You may know him. He is well regarded in the field of critical thinking. He's got 3 books and then a novel. He's also a tech philosopher, so he's a pretty interesting person. And this is his passion. This is his absolute passion topic. The course is broken into 6 modules. We have a module on evidence and why bother critical thinking at all. That's the really first important step in the course, to unpick why it counts and why now, above all times, it's more and more important to engage critically. Then we have coverage of arguments and some really good stuff on how to differentiate academic arguments from arguments you might have around the dinner table. We look at explanations and reasoning, how to think carefully and deliberately. And then we have some really practical stuff here too around how to write critically and how to read critically. And then finally, we have a module on managing time and attention in a digital world, which looks at, inattention, how to not feel overwhelmed, and how to navigate what can be a mass of online conflicting information. So the course has lots of rigorous concepts in it, but I will say that it's also a wonderful mix of light and shade. We have some really rigorous stuff here. So on the left and right, I've got a couple of examples of the kind of concepts that we cover. So on the left, you can see we've got Occam's razor is covered. We don't shy away from these quite tough philosophical concepts or foundations. They are really in here. This is a meaty and substantial academic course. And then on the right, you can see we are explaining heuristics. Again, we're not shying away from pretty rigorous academic material, but we are talking about those concepts in the everyday world and applying them to things that the students would be familiar with. Topical real-world examples. There are so many of these. I've picked out just 2. The first one is around the migrant crisis. So this is, I believe, from Module 1, and this is where we talk about slow thinking versus fast thinking and how we're all inclined to jump to conclusions and make up a story about why something is happening. So this is a branching activity where students are asked a series of questions around the migrant crisis, and they have to then work out what their conclusion would be based on minimal information. And then Tom explains why there may have been flaws in their thinking and what might be, or more critical way to analyse the story. And then on the right, correlation and causation is so topical, particularly with health crises that we're facing. So we go into correlation and causation and really explain how the two are different and why we need to be really careful that we don't jump to causation when it's actually correlation. Confirmation bias, again, a nice topical example I wanted to show you here. We're all doing it all the time, and Tom has a really good way of unpacking this in one of the modules and really challenging the students to think, we're all subject to it, and this is how it works, so we can be more aware. Loads of practical skills are covered. Search and discovery skills are so crucial, and so we have a whole section on this. This is just the beginning of that section where Tom explains the difference between search and discovery, that actually you'll probably need to do both as a student and when you might need to do each one. And this topic then expands for much longer and really goes through those discovery skills that you're going to need, whatever level of academic study you're at. And I should say that this course is taken by undergraduates, it's taken by postgraduates, it's taken by a real range of academic levels, whether you're coming to university for the first time, or you're returning to study, or you're doing a master's and suddenly thinking, I've got to demonstrate critical thinking at a much higher level now. What do I need to be thinking about? I think this is my final example, arguments and explanations. I find this section of the course really interesting because Tom unpacks really in a very, I can't think of the word. This is awful, I've forgotten the word, but he scrutinizes arguments and explanation and picks them apart, dissects them, that was it. He dissects it for everybody very, very clearly. So this is one example of an activity where he helps us unpick an argument at every stage and what makes a good, rigorous argument versus what makes a heated, emotional plea. So what's new in this new version? Well, the main thing that I really want to share is that we've improved the accessibility of the course substantially. So we were getting feedback that screen readers were snagging on the course, that certain activities were not functioning correctly. And we also got feedback that there was an awful lot of clicking, that students were having to click every time they wanted to progress with any content at all. So we decided to rebuild the whole course in a different way, so that screen readers work much more simply and more smoothly. We've added things like captions on all the videos. We've added video transcripts, which are accessible to everybody. And the navigation has been reworked, so it is much simpler to use. So this is better for everyone, frankly. It really improves that experience for the whole cohort. We've updated some examples as well. So we went through the course with Tom and we removed a few that we didn't get amazing feedback on. For instance, sometimes the answers are too nuanced, or faculty was saying this is a bit of a difficult one, we'd rather this wasn't here. So we pruned it back a little bit and updated the examples with the author's support. Right, this is the technical bit where I am going to do a poll. I've got 2 questions for you. I would love to hear about, actually I need to reset this poll, relaunch poll. Okay, I would love to hear from you how you teach critical thinking right now. We have got 3 options here. I am going to launch it now. Hopefully everyone can see that. So I'll stop talking. Please choose from one of the 3 options. I love this bit. Wonderful. And just to say, if you have a different answer to these 3, feel free to pop it in the chat and we'll be looking at those as well. I'm going to give a few more seconds because it's still changing. Oh, yes. Right, I'm going to give 5 more seconds and then close the poll and then move to the second question. Okay, I'm going to end that poll. And if you didn't get a chance to participate, do pop it in the chat. So let's share the results. What have we got here? Hopefully everyone can see that. Okay. Oh, so we've got an even split on it being a thematic approach in various modules. So this is quite common, and this is what we hear often actually, that it's woven through. Not explicitly teaching critical thinking, that's come out high as well. Yes, that's really interesting, and I'd love to hear more from you about whether it's something that you would like to change, and how you think you might tackle that, because you're obviously interested if you're here today. And then, yeah, dedicated modules. Sadly, it is a rarity to have it as a dedicated module, but there are some of you doing that. That's really, really useful. The good thing, I suppose, is with the thematic approach is this course can be woven in or used across a number of other modules as assigned work or as a supplementary. I am going to try and launch the second poll now here. Excellent. Here we go. Right. The second question is up now, and this is, what is your biggest challenge when teaching critical thinking skills, if you are doing so? Or if you're not, have a guess. What do you think it might be? And if it's something else, please tick something else and then pop it in the chat. These ones are all coming out pretty even from what I can see. I don't know if anyone can see the answers yet. Pretty fair split, and I've got a few something else's, so do share that in the chat for everybody if you can. I'm going to close it in 5 seconds. There we go. Great. So hopefully everyone can see that we have a very even split here across engagement being a challenge. Finding time in the curriculum, I think we could all agree with that one. It's hard to teach everything that needs to be taught, and resourcing, yeah, challenging times for resourcing. So that's come up as well. And yeah, we've got 3 something else, so do share those. I think on the engagement, I've got some feedback to share with you about this course, and I would say we get very good feedback on this course. As I said, it's consistently the most used course we have, and one of the most liked. So we find that engagement is quite high with this one. But yeah, time and resource is always a challenge. Oh, I don't think I shared the results there. My apologies. I've just done that now, so you can see them as well. Great, thank you very much. That's really, really useful and would be an aid to our discussion. Thank you. Right, next slide, please, Alex. So, how can it be used in the class? And what happens when you do try and use this course to teach? So this is the sneak preview I talked about. We were contacted by a researcher in Turkey several months ago, and they said we'd really like to use the course with students and do some research around what impact it has. Does it change does it have an impact on learning? So this is what they did. They have a compulsory critical thinking class for a cross-disciplinary group of undergraduates. Now these undergraduates are all taking English as a full year as a foreign language, and this group is made up of 100 students who were then split into 4 groups. The researcher taught 3 of the groups using a mixture of online and face-to-face with flipped classroom use of critical thinking course. In the paper that he's drafted, that he's just submitted, he goes into the curriculum and how it was done. So each of those 3 slightly variant, but they were all flipped classroom. And then the 4th group was the control. Those students only received face-to-face teaching with traditional approach. The lecturer did use the course materials in class, but those students were not given access to it. They were only using it in the classroom with the teacher presenting in a traditional style. So that was the study. Now, I've had the researcher's permission to share 2 extracts from his draft paper. It's still being peer reviewed, so I'm going to be very wary about saying this is, this has been verified, but I do want to share it because I think it's exciting. So you can go to the next slide, Alex. The two pull-out quotes that I'd like to share are that all explicit critical thinking teachings that were conducted in the research in the different learning environments significantly improve the university students' critical thinking skills and dispositions with a large effect size. And then the crucial thing that we found really interesting was that the flipped approach was the most effective to improve the skills and dispositions, followed by the online and then the in-class teaching respectively. So all the data is in the paper, and as I said, it's currently at peer review. So we will be sharing that if it goes to publication, and we can then drill into the findings in more detail. But we're really excited by what this study potentially shows. And you can go to the next slide, Alex, for some feedback from the students that he's included in the paper. So what the students were saying was the things they liked the most were the videos. There's a lot of videos in this course. They're really, really good. Tom is a very engaging speaker. Really interestingly, they've all said that they like the fact that you get feedback on the answers to the questions no matter what you've said. So if you got it wrong, you get feedback, and if you got it right, you get feedback. And one of the students actually said, this is great because this teaches me critical thinking, that actually understanding why I'm correct is as important as understanding why I might be wrong. Content was marked as satisfying, and the favourite module from this cohort of 100 was module 3 on explanations and reasoning. The researcher really enjoyed using the cohort management tool that's on our platform, so he could assign to different groups, so he could track the outcomes of the groups through the platform. And the module that was least used and least popular was the last module, which is pretty typical for any online course, the managing time and attention. Often you do see a drop off with online courses, very typical behaviour. So yeah, that was the feedback we got. I'm done now talking about the course in detail and the content. I'm going to hand over to Amy King, my instructional designer, who is going to talk to you about our learning design and then show you some more examples from the course itself. Over to you, Amy.
Thanks, Rachel. Hi, everyone. So as Rachel mentioned, I'm the instructional designer on Sage Campus. I've worked on campus for about 4.5 years now, since its early beginnings, and I'm responsible for thinking about our learning design and experience, supporting on content development and also building our courses. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to talk about how we approach the design of our courses at Sage Campus in terms of pedagogy and the learning experience, and I'll then show you some examples of how these principles have been applied in the critical thinking course. So firstly, Sage Campus is about learning design, not content delivery. And what that means for us is when we plan and develop our courses, we start with the learner in mind. So there are 4 questions here that we try to answer when planning a course curriculum. First is, who are our learners? For example, are they undergrads, postgrads, or doctoral students? Are they studying part-time or full-time, studying remotely, or are they fully campus-based? Then we look at their learning goals, and these will vary widely within a single cohort. Are they looking for resources for some pre-reading ahead of their university classes? Are they signed up purely because they have to get the certificate to show their lecturer, or do they want the certificate to boost their graduate prospects? Then we look at where and when are they taking the courses? Is it before class, after classes, both or neither? Do we think they'll use laptops for a course because it might be more technical and they'll need a bigger screen? Or do we think it's more of a mobile-friendly course that they might be able to do while traveling or at home? And finally, we look at what's the best way to teach them. What do they value? Do they want a lot of practice, or do they want a lot of tests and knowledge checks? Is it a lot of video or real-life examples, or is it variety and fun that they're after? And answering these questions really helps us to make deliberate choices about how to teach a certain topic. And this is learning design. Next slide, please. To help guide our decision-making in this learning design process, we follow a framework developed by the Open University called the Learning Design Activity Types Framework. And this framework really helps us to think about the types of learning and activities that we're including in our courses, to make sure that we're developing effective learning opportunities and making sure that we have a good balance of activity types in our curriculum. These activity types are assimilative, which might involve, among others, reading, studying texts, or watching videos. Communicative activities, which might involve some discussion, debate, or collaboration. Finding and handling information, which could involve analyzing information, manipulating or evaluating information or data. Productive activities, where something is created or designed. And finally, practice activities, which usually involve some sort of application or experimentation. And in the critical thinking course, we have a really rich variety of activity types to help learners achieve the learning objectives. So over the next few slides, I'll talk through some examples of assimilative, practice, and finding and handling information activities from the course. Assimilative activities are the bread and butter of many learning experiences, and we use a lot of this activity type as it helps learners to engage with and to digest new information. To make sure that we're making this information really engaging, we use a variety of different interactive elements and media such as video or audio clips. So in these two examples that you see here from the critical thinking course, we have an accordion activity on the left that walks through and applies critical thinking principles to the example of superfoods. And on the right, a narrative slide activity about scientific theories. We also use interactives such as flip cards, as you saw in one of Rachel's examples, hotspots, sliding scales, checklists, interactive infographics, as well as flowcharts. A notable aspect of the critical thinking course in particular is how many opportunities it gives learners to practice and apply the critical thinking skills that they're learning. And we do this in a number of ways. On this slide, you see an example of a timed game activity where learners have to identify the best explanation within 30 seconds. The timer adds a fun gamified element, and learners receive a bronze, silver, or gold medal based on how many questions they answer correctly. We also use a number of scenarios in this course based on real-world examples. So this one on the left is a branching activity that gets learners trading in cryptocurrency and making decisions about whether to buy or sell based on the information they're given. And on the right, a multiple choice activity where learners identify the rhetorical elements in a newspaper article. These types of activities are really great for engagement, but they also allow learners to receive rich, detailed feedback, which we know is a key ingredient to providing a scaffolded learning experience. Learning to handle the information they're given appropriately is a very important aspect of the critical thinking course, and we give learners plenty of opportunities to evaluate the information they're given. In this example, they're led through a series of questions in a branching activity about the original research into CFCs in the 1970s, evaluating new information they're given about the case study at every branch of the activity and considering their responses, and finally receiving some feedback when they reach the end. And I'll finish off by talking briefly about assessment. In the OU Learning Design Framework, assessment is a blend of all 5 activity types. Our courses don't have formal graded assessments, but rather plenty of opportunities for throughout the course for learners to test their knowledge and skills. So our approach to assessment is more continuous or formative. In critical thinking, every module has a number of these knowledge checks, and these might be multiple choice or drag and drop activities, as you see in these 2 examples here, or they might be matching activities, branching activities, as you saw in the previous example, or sliding scales. And again, regardless of whether they answer correctly or not, they receive some feedback to check their understanding against. And that's it from me.
Thank you so much, Amy and Rachel, as well. Before closing, what I will say is that we do have another webinar on the 7th of September with our authors, Tom Chatfield and Erica Dye-Karame. They are authors of our Critical Thinking online course, as well as Critical Reading and Writing. It's going to be a panel discussion, so if you are interested, please do keep your eyes open on your emails. We will be sending invites for that. We'll be sending more information. But yeah, that's going to be quite interesting to hear our authors and their perspectives, as well as just kind of a discussion on critical thinking and how it's taught and delivered in universities and their thoughts on that area. But yeah, that's the webinar. We do have a Q&A available with a few, if you have any questions, please do let us know. As I said, everything you see today will be recorded, and we will be sending you the recording as well as the resources that we've used. But I'll just hand over to Paulina to see if we've had any questions or anything else that we could answer at the moment.
Hi, Alex. I have a few questions. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you.
One is about the updates of the course. So you mentioned the rebuild of this, the critical thinking course. Does the same happen to all the other courses, and how often are the courses updated?
I'll hand over to Rachel or Amy for that one.
Yeah, sure. Yes, really good question. Yes, we update our courses every 2 to 3 years. We review the content with the authors, and then if things need correcting or changing, we do that too. And then if we're getting consistent feedback about particular issues, then of course we will tackle those as well, as we did with this course, by rebuilding it so that there were fewer clicks. So yes, we review all content every 2 to 3 years.
Thank you, Rachel. There's another one, I think maybe Amy can answer. How long does it take usually to build a course, and how do you choose the instructors?
Oh, I can't remember off the top of my head how many hours this course is. Alex, you might know more than I do.
Critical Thinking online course is 10 hours, I believe.
It's 10. But was the question more about how long it takes us to make a course?
Yeah, for you to build the whole course, like.
So we typically take 6 months to work on a course from start to finish, and that will exclude a little bit of commissioning time before that, but we'll then work with the authors for about 3 months on developing the content and producing storyboards for the courses, and we then go into a build period where we're building the course in the authoring tool. And throughout the storyboarding and build process, we go through many iterations, reviewing and revising as we go until we're happy with the finished product.
Mm-hmm. How do you choose the instructors?
Rachel, would you like to take that?
Yeah, sure. We work quite closely with a lot of our authors already, so Sage book authors, because we know them, we know they're really reliable and are experts already. So we do work with a lot of people that we are already working with, but then we're also looking for up and coming people. So we go to conferences, we're plugged into different communities, so we look for the people that have got a real flair for teaching, and also know their subject really, really well. And yeah, we use reviewers as well. So we don't just have to have one person, we can have many minds on the same course to ensure that the content's really delivering what we hope to.
Thank you. Just one more question. Are there any plans for new courses?
Yes, there are. We are working on 3 right now. So we'll have 3 new courses coming in January. One is actually on search strategies. So we know how important that is. So that's getting its own dedicated course. We've made another course on critical thinking too, which you might want to take a look at, which is on critical reading and writing specifically. So this is the foundation, and then we go into the more specific skills in depth. But yes, we have 3 brand new courses coming next year.
Thank you. I can see a question on the chat. Can Sage train upcoming course developers?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
Yeah.
That's not something we do right now, but if you're interested in learning more about how we approach our course development, please do drop us a line. We'd be very open to having a conversation. There is a webinar that we have a recording of where we talk in more detail about our learning design approach, and I point you to other resources that are out there to help you learn how to build. I would also say that FutureLearn, not to recommend a competitor, but FutureLearn has some great courses on how to build online courses. So I would really tap into the community. There's a lot of free resources out there.
There's another good question on the chat. How can a course be embedded for learning? Does it launch with a bespoke Sage portal, or can it be embedded into an institution via Lee?
So I can jump in on that one. Yeah. So both actually, we're working on VLE LTI integration. So that's going to be ready very soon. But at the moment, we also have our own Sage Campus portal, and you can create specific curated links for your course and your cohorts. So if you were to create a cohort of, say, 30, you wanted 30 students on this cohort, you can assign them whichever courses you want. And any student that clicks on that link, you'll be able to see them kind of register and sign up to your class. And it's incredibly easy to manage that entire process. So if the link does get out and a couple of students that aren't of yours that can jump in, you can remove them or just share the link to anyone that has missed the first link. And that's the way that it works at the moment. But we are working on LTI and VLE integration as we speak.
Thank you, Alex. Any other questions, anyone? Don't see anything else.
Perfect. In that case, I guess thank you so much, everyone, from the Sage perspective of joining today. And also thank you to our guests. I hope you found that very informative. If you have any questions, here's our emails again. Just please do drop us a line. Let us know any queries or questions you may have. As I mentioned, we do also have trial options as well. Then we're more than happy to discuss anything. Thank you so much for your time, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care.
Cheers.
Thanks, everyone.